This feels a little bit like deja vu, or should I say deja blue. Now earlier this year I drove a Swift in the same colour in fact, but that was only a quick drive. This time however, I've had the car for just over a week, so here's my full review. Let's get stuck in. So the new Swift isn't quite as cheeky looking as its predecessor. It's more aggressive and it's also lower and wider, and I have to say it does it pretty good. Now this particular model is finished in Speedy Blue metallic, which I think is a little bit of a silly name, but it's a really lovely blue, but you will have to pay £485 for it. What you won't have to pay extra for though are the 16-inch polished alloy wheels, which come standard of the SZ5 model here, which is the top of the range model. So the new Swift is a 5-door only, and in fact quite a few hatchbacks have gone this way. So guys, if you like your 3-door models, I'm afraid you're out of luck with the new Swift. But on the plus side, the door handle is kind of disguised in the C-pillar, giving it a sleeker look. So in regards to equipment, for base model SZ3, which is priced from £10,999, this will give you the basics such as DAB radio, Bluetooth, front electric windows, air conditioning and privacy glass, but you do get this leather steering wheel as well, which I rather like. So this is for top of the range model, but even on the base model you get this leather steering wheel with a flat bottom, which I have to say is rather nice. You can step up to the SZT, which is a mid-range model, that's priced from £12,999, and this adds a rear-facing camera, 16-inch alloys, smartphone connectivity and front fog lamps. But as mentioned, I'm in the range topping SZ5 model, which is priced from £14,499, but because this model does have the Speedy Blue metallic paintwork, this will cost you £14,984, and this adds, well, a fair amount of equipment. So you get rear electric windows, you get LED headlamps, LED tail lights, autonomous emergency braking, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, climate control, navigation and keyless entry, to name a few. So yes, the specification in the top of the range model is very generous indeed. So the front of the Swift is quite a comfortable place to be. These seats are rather nice and supportive, and they're not too bad on long journeys actually. You've also got a steering wheel which adjusts for rake and reach, but that's only on the top of the range model, so the other models don't get that. The seat's got a good level of adjustment as well, and there's a fair amount of headroom, well, lots of headroom in fact. So the front of the Swift is quite a good place to be, but what's it like in the back? So the new Swift does have a longer wheelbase, which in theory should mean there's more space in the back, but even so, for my 6'2" frame, it is a little bit tight. As always, the driver's seat has been altered for myself, but the legroom isn't particularly impressive if you ask me. A shorter person wouldn't have too much of an issue of course, but on the plus side, the headroom is pretty good. So the back of Swift is kind of mix and match really. Legroom could be better, but the headroom is pretty good. So one of the drawbacks with the previous Swift was that the boot was rather small. Thankfully, Suzuki has addressed this. So the new boot is 25% larger, which means that you'll get 265 litres, which, okay, it's not class leading, but it's not too far behind the Ford Fiesta. But if you do need more room, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you an increased capacity of 579 litres. In short, fun. Now the Swift comes with a choice of 2 engines. You can either have the naturally aspirated 1.2 litre petrol, which produces 89 horsepower, but in all honesty guys, I can't really recommend that because I think that's quite sluggish and it doesn't quite suit the character of the car. For me, the Swift is young, it's lively, it's funky, and the engine is a bit of a letdown if you ask me. The engine I have, however, is the 1 litre 3-cylinder Boosterjet engine, which is turbocharged, and it produces 109 horsepower with 170 newton meters of torque. I have to say that power's not too bad. Pretty good in all honesty. Now it's mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox. You can also have a 6-speed automatic if you prefer, but you would have to have the top of the range model in order to do so. But in regards to a 5-speed manual, it's not bad, it's pretty slick, although the gear lever itself does feel a little bit cheap and flimsy in all honesty. In regards to the steering, it's pretty good. Now at low speed it does feel quite light, but it means it's easy to manoeuvre the car around car parks or in traffic jams or anything like that. But as you go faster, it does become heavier. The steering is pretty direct, and this new steering wheel, I'm a big fan of it. It looks more premium, it's quite nice, and it feels quite sporty. It's got a flat bottom, trimmed in leather, and it is rather nice. Now one thing that isn't that nice in all honesty is the ride. It's not awful, but it is quite lumpy and it is quite bumpy. Now on smooth roads like this, it's not too bad, but the ride is definitely on the firm side, which is a little bit disappointing. It just means that the car doesn't, you know, it's not composed as, let's say, a Ford Fiesta. And in the bends, sometimes it will skip over surfaces as you turn in, which can be a little bit distracting to say the least. So the ride isn't brilliant. Thankfully, these seats are pretty comfortable, and although the ride isn't brilliant, I've driven this on long distance journeys and it's not actually too bad on the motorway. It's not too noisy. Okay, the road noise from the tyres is quite high, but the wind noise wasn't quite as bad as I was expecting. Plus you've got the adaptive cruise control, so driving this car on the motorway is pretty easy in all honesty. So the ride may not be fantastic, but on the plus side, the Swift is pretty good where the going gets twisty. Right, let's put it through a few corners, see what's what. The handling is pretty good. There's a little bit of body roll, but the grip is pretty good. Even though this is on eco tyres, it's still pretty impressive. And I have to say, the Swift is definitely good fun when you throw it through the corners. It really is. I'm really looking forward to the Swift Sport that will come next year, because that will be even more fun. Right, on the brakes are pretty good actually. Right, turn it in. And back on the power. It makes kind of like a sort of low burble. I quite like it. Now, one thing I should mention about the engine is that it has got a mild hybrid system. So like the Ignis I tested earlier this year, the Swift comes with Suzuki's mild hybrid system called Smart Hybrid Vehicle by Suzuki. Now, it doesn't mean that you can run the car purely on an electric mode or anything like that. What it does is it's got a battery and an electric motor, of course, and it helps with acceleration, and it also helps with fuel economy. And when you brake, that energy isn't wasted, it's fed back into the battery, and again that can aid acceleration. I have to say it's a pretty clever system. Now, you can also have that with a 1.2 litre engine, but you would have to have four-wheel drive in order to do so. And by the way, that's another feature you can have on the Swift, four-wheel drive. I don't think many buyers are going to be after that kind of capability in a supermini, but it's nice to have it. But if you do want four-wheel drive, then you have to have the 1.2 litre engine. There's no choices about that, I'm afraid. The Swift feels so agile as well. Now, that is because it's a light car. Now, for the base model, it's less than 900 kilograms, and this model, it's got a few toys on it, so it is a little bit heavier. But even so, it's still under a ton. So yeah, the car is really light. Now, it's actually 10% lighter than the previous model, but it's 19% more powerful, so that's a good combination if you ask me. It's also 8% more fuel efficient, so that can only be a good thing, of course. It means you spend less time at the petrol pumps. I do have to say, guys, like I said, the suspension is firm. Other than that, I do really like the Swift. It's definitely a playful car. And like the Ignis that I tested earlier this year, it just oozes fun. It really is a likeable car. This is definitely a frugal little car. So on a combined run, you're looking at 65.7 miles to the gallon, and in my experience, I was getting high 50s, low 60s, which is pretty impressive. And that's definitely with the help with the mild hybrid system I mentioned earlier. In regards to CO2, you're looking at 97 grams per kilometre, which means it is definitely a green car. Now, for 1.2 engine, that's pretty green as well, and its MPG figures aren't a million miles away. In fact, I think the base model SZ3 has exactly the same combined figure, i.e. 65.7 miles to the gallon. So there's definitely a lot to like about the new Suzuki Swift. It looks great, it offers good value for money, and it's enjoyable to drive as well. Okay, so it might not be quite as composed and refined as a Ford Fiesta, but let's not forget the Fiesta is more money, but the Swift is really able to hold its own, and it's a cracking little car. I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe for more car obsession.